Easter time, and for my family, that means a traditional Easter dinner. Now, all of my family usually comes over to our house for Easter dinner, and I love coming up with new recipes and new ways to decorate my table. So today I'm trying out a sweet and tangy orange chicken. And to go along with that, we're gonna have some yummy vegetables like roasted butternut squash, carrots and potatoes, and some citrusy, fresh herbed green beans. And for dessert, I have my mother's famous 3-day coconut cake, and it is to die for, so you don't want to miss out on today's show. So join me for Easter dinner on today's Tasty Traditions. Thank you so much for joining me today for our Easter dinner. You know, this meal is probably as simple as you can get because I don't know about you, but for us, Easter can be a very busy day. You know, we go to church and my husband and I are involved in choir, so we always have a big cantata that we're singing in. And when you get home, you don't want to have to spend a lot of time getting the meal ready. So a lot of the stuff you can do ahead of time for this meal today, which is good. And while you're getting the rest of it ready, the kids can go out and have an Easter egg hunt. So let's get started. And the first thing we're going to make today is that sweet and tangy orange chicken. Now I'm going to go over what you're going to need for this recipe. On this plate I have about a pound of chicken tenders, and those are really good because they cook so quickly. I also have a couple of teaspoons of cornstarch, some salt and pepper, an orange because we're going to use the zest a little bit later on it. I also have about 3 large shallots that I have chopped up pretty finely. And then continuing with the broth that we're going to make, I have here 1 cup of just canned chicken broth. I also have some Dijon mustard, some red wine vinegar, some olive oil, and some orange marmalade. And that's going to give it that nice sweetness and a little zing too as well. So let's get started. First thing I'm going to do is to season my chicken tenders with a little salt and pepper. A little salt across the top. And some pepper. Now I already have 4 teaspoons of olive oil heating up in my pan over here. Get that heat just a little bit higher. And you're gonna cook these, and they're gonna take about 2 to 3 minutes per side. Just, you know, make sure that they're done and they don't have any pinkness in them. Get those in there. Hear them sizzling. All right. You're gonna let those cook for just a bit. Then I'm gonna get started on the broth that we're gonna make. And what I need to do is get my bowl here, have a little whisk, and you're going to put in your chicken broth. About 2 tablespoons of red wine vinegar. A teaspoon of Dijon mustard. And 2 tablespoons of your orange marmalade. And our cornstarch that's going to thicken it up. Just whisk that all together. You know, here in the South, when I was growing up, Easter was so much fun because me and my sisters would always get a new Easter dress, and that was always exciting for church to get your new Easter dress. Alrighty, let me turn our chicken over. Okay, and give that a few more minutes. All right. Once the chicken is done, I'm going to take it off and put it into a plate, keep it a little bit warm, and then I'm going to put in some more olive oil, and I'm going to put in our shallots and let those soften up, and then we're going to put in our broth. And you're just gonna cook this and let it reduce down, and it's gonna get a little thicker. And let this cook for a couple of minutes, and then we're gonna add our chicken back into the pot and let it cook for another couple of minutes as well. So just let this cook for a couple more minutes. And when that's done, we're gonna finish it off. We're gonna grate a little bit of orange zest on the top right before you serve it, and it'll be good to go. Welcome back. If you're just joining us, we are making an Easter dinner today. We've already made our sweet and tangy orange chicken. So to go along with that, I'm going to be making some yummy vegetables. Now over here on the stove, I have already put about a pound of fresh green beans into my pan with a little bit of water, about an inch or so. Let that cook for about 8 minutes. So we'll get back to those in just a minute. So we're going to move on now to our roasted vegetables. Now I have some potatoes and I have some carrots already in my roasting pan. And I chopped up about 2 cups of each. I even cheated and got some carrots that were already pre-cut. So I chopped up about 4 or 5 potatoes, just, however many you want. And of course, it'll depend on how many people you're going to have over for your Easter dinner. Now to put into my carrots and potatoes, we are going to slice up a butternut squash. And I love, love, love butternut squash. It is so yummy. And this is what they look like. If you've never seen one before, you see them in the grocery store. And it does have sort of a tough peeling on it, a skin that we want to take off. And you can do that in one of 2 ways. You can use a knife, or if you have a really sharp vegetable peeler, it works as well. So that's what we're going to use today. So just very carefully, you're just going to strip down and get that peeling all the way off. See how easy that was? And just continue to do that all around your butternut squash. And then we'll chop it up and put it into the potatoes and carrots. Okay, we've got pretty much all of it peeled off. Set that aside, throw our peelings away. And now we need to cut it. So I like to just cut mine in half to start with. So I'm just going to cut the stem off. It can be a little tough, put some little arm action in there. Aha! Okay, let's put that aside. And I'm just going to simply just slice this part up into cubes and put it in with the other vegetables. Now, this part holds all of the seeds, and when we cut it open, you're going to see that it looks just like a pumpkin when you cut those open. So just slice down the middle here. There we go. See inside, you've got all your seeds and the membrane there, and we want to clean that all out. All right, now we have our butternut squash all cleaned out, and just chop it into chunks. You don't have to get them precise at all. All right, now I have enough butternut squash in here now, and I have this left over, but you can also chop this up and freeze it. Butternut squash freezes really, really well, so you can keep it for another dish. So we have all of our good veggies here in our roasting pan. Now we need to add a little spice and flavor to it. Now I love garlic in mine, so I'm going to chop up just a few garlic cloves. Okay. Take that. I'm just going to kind of spread it all across. Now to add a little more flavor and to give it some color, I have some fresh flat leaf parsley. Just take that, toss that all over. And now we've got to give it some olive oil so it will roast really well. So I just eyeball it. I take my olive oil and just drizzle it over the top. Just want to give it a good coating. And I also have my oven preheated at 425 degrees. And you're going to want to let this roast for about 40 minutes. Just keep an eye on it. It depends on if you want your potatoes nice and brown. I do when I do mine. We also need to add some salt and some pepper. Take a little handful there, sprinkle that all around. And a little pepper. Oh, and this looks so pretty too. Okay, into the oven it goes. Set my timer. We'll start at 30 first. And there we go. Now we need to move on to our green beans. Well, I have my butternut squash and my carrots and potatoes in the oven roasting, so it's now time to make our citrusy herb green beans. And like I said earlier, I have about a pound of green beans that I've already cooked on the stove here. I'm just keeping them warm. We're going to drain those in just a second. But right here, I want to show you what we're going to use for this dish. Now, I have 2 shallots. Again, that's a very mild onion, and I'm going to be slicing those really thinly. I have a little bit of basil that I'm going to chop up. A lemon to get some lemon zest, olive oil, a little bit of sugar, and some salt and pepper. That's all you need for this dish. So I'm going to start by slicing up my shallots, and hopefully I won't tear up, because you know meat and onions don't go very well together. Okay, and you just want to kind of take them and separate them into little rings like that, so they will spread all around into the beans themselves. Whew, that made me tear up just a little bit, so I think it's a good time that I take my green beans and go drain them into a colander. Alrighty, now I put my pan back on the stove because now I need to add some olive oil into there. So I need a couple of teaspoons of olive oil. 1 and 2. Okay. Now we're going to put those shallots in the pan and let them get nice and soft. And I know this seems a little weird, but to give it just a little bit of sweetness, I'm going to put about a half a teaspoon of sugar in there as well. Okay. Crank up our heat a little bit. And just kind of keep tossing them around until they get a little golden color and soften up a bit. Alrighty, our shallots are nice and brown. That sugar's helped to caramelize them really well. So now I'm going to take my green beans and put them back into the pot to reheat them. I'm going to turn the heat down a little bit, and I'm also going to add some salt and pepper. Just about a half a teaspoon is good. A little bit more cracked pepper. All right, while those are heating, I'm going to chop up a little bit of basil. This is where our herbs come in here. I love basil. If you watch this show, you know how much I love basil. My beans are nice and hot again. Let me bring them over here and show you. This would probably be the last dish that you make because you want to keep them nice and hot. Okay. Take your basil and just sprinkle it over the top. And to give it a nice fresh little zing, we're going to take some lemon zest. So just take your regular lemon and a little grater, and you're going to put about 2 teaspoons of grated lemon zest on top. And there you go. That's all there is to your citrusy, lemony herb green beans. So stick with us because when we come back, I have that coconut cake to die for. You are going to love it, so you don't want to miss that. So come back. Well, it is time for my favorite part of our Easter dinner, and that is dessert, of course. And today I am making my mother's special 3-day coconut cake. Now, I don't want that to alarm you. It doesn't take 3 days to make it. You do have to do a little prep work, but the longer the cake sits in the refrigerator, the better it gets. Thus, 3-day coconut cake. Now, I have made this a little easier on you. We're not making the cake from scratch. I have used a box cake mix, a white cake mix. I have already made it and let it cool. So the tricky part is that we're going to be slicing each one in half so we have 4 layers in our coconut cake. But before we do that, I want to make the filling that's going to go in between the layers. And here's what you need for that. I have a cup of sour cream. I'm going to go ahead and put that in my bowl. And I know you think sour cream, but I'm telling you, it's so good. It just makes it just a little bit better. I don't know though. This cake is pretty darn good, just like it is. I have a cup of sugar. And you're going to add to this frozen coconut, and that's in the freezer section of your grocery store. It comes in little bags like this. This is a 6-ounce bag, so you're going to need about 9 ounces for the filling, so about a pack and a half will be okay for this. So just go ahead. It's all right if it's still a little frozen. I just kind of break it up. You can defrost it a little bit in your microwave ahead of time. Let's go ahead and get that out. There we go. And then just mix all of that together. Now, the prep part that I was talking about is we're not ready to put this filling onto our cake just yet. You're going to want to let this sit for at least 8 hours or overnight if you need to. But luckily, I have already made some yesterday for us to have today. But I wanted to show you how you make the filling anyway. So just get that all stirred up together and put it in the refrigerator and let it sit for at least 8 hours or overnight. Okay? Now I'm going to get the one I made. Here we go. Now this one, like I said, I made yesterday. And it's all right if it's a little runny. We want it to be that way. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take out a cup of this because that's going to be reserved for my frosting. So take out a cup, set that aside. All right, now comes the fun part. We've got to split this cake in half. Now I have one of these serrated knives, and you can pick these up, in a houseware department. And it's good because it's long, and so you can really get through the cake nice and easy. So you want to find a midway point on your cake, and just be very gentle, and slice all the way through. You don't want to force it. There we go. Okay, now we've got to take this top layer, put it onto our cake stand, and we want the cut side to be facing up because when we put the filling on it, it'll soak into the cake a lot better. So gently pick it up, flip it over, and lay it on your cake pan. Now it's time to put the filling on our first layer. You're just going to scoop some up, spread it around, and what's going to happen is this filling is going to soak into the cake layers and make it so good. That's why it needs to sit for 3 days. That makes it even better. But if you can't wait 3 days, it's okay. You can cut it. All right, now let's put another layer on top. Again, with the cut side facing up. Now let's put our last cake layer on top, but this time we're going to put the non-cut side to make it smooth. So place that gently there. And now it's time to frost it. This is where that cup of reserved filling comes in. We're going to go ahead and put that in a bowl. And to that, I'm going to mix 1 small container of whipped topping. And I also have some dry flake coconut that we're going to put on top after it's all done. Just more and more coconut goodness. Give that a good stir. All right, just layer it up and frost it just like you would any other cake. Being sure to get the sides all nice and even. All of our frosting on our beautiful cake. Just make sure you get all the sides, but we're not done yet. Our finishing touch will be our flaked coconut. You're just going to take this with your hand and sprinkle it all over the top, and we're going to press it into the sides as well. It's good to have a towel underneath you so you can have a little easier cleanup. Okay, just take a handful and just kind of gently press on the sides, and that frosting with the whipped topping is going to help hold it on there. Now, like I said, if you want to clean up the sides, Just take a paper towel and just gently run it all the way around the bottom. And there you have your 3-day coconut cake. Now put this in the refrigerator and try your best not to touch it for at least 3 days. And when you slice into it and have your first piece, it's so good. Now stay with us, because when we come back, I'm gonna have all the food out. I'm gonna show you a couple little ways to help decorate your Easter table. Thank you so much for joining me today for our Easter dinner. But before we go, I want to show you a couple little tips to help bring some fun to your Easter table. And the first idea is using jelly beans, because we love jelly beans at Easter time. I just took some decorative glasses that I have, sprinkle some multicolored jelly beans in there, put a little candle, light those, and it'll be so precious on your Easter table. And I always love to have a place card at my dinner table settings. And so what I did with this one is I took terracotta planters, the little tiny ones, and I just spray painted them some pretty pastel colors, put a little Easter grass inside, put some of those wonderful chocolate eggs, and for the name card, I just took a toothpick and I glued over a piece of just regular cardstock, wrote the name on it, and stuck it in there. And that's what makes a great little gift for your guests and a place that they know where they're going to be sitting. So I hope that you've enjoyed the show today. I hope you'll try that wonderful sweet and tangy orange chicken and all the roasted vegetables and the herb green beans. And of course, that 3-day coconut cake. You will not go wrong with that. Your guests will love you by making that. Remember, if you'd like the recipes for today's show, you can log on to our website at tastytraditions.tv. And I also have something new there. If you have a traditional favorite meal that you like to make, email me your recipe, and you never know, it might just end up here on the show. Thanks so much, and I hope you have a wonderful Easter season.